Hats off to Scott Munn and Johan Langer, once again getting their work done quietly and secretively to bring in an exciting young modern goalkeeper to Tottenham. Transfer heavyweights Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein say more signings for Spurs are imminent. Meanwhile, could Marcus Rashford be on his way to Milan? Darwin Núñez might be leaving Liverpool, and amazing Brazilian talent Matheus Cunha looks to have pied off Arsenal to sign a new deal at Wolves. I'll be discussing all this and more on today's episode of Daily Premier League Transfer News. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're on YouTube, please do give this video a like. Let's get it seen by as many people as possible. And press subscribe for daily transfer content this January. I'm getting closer to 15,000 subscribers. So if you want to hear about what transfer rumours are doing the rounds in the Premier League this January, please do give me a subscribe. Always starting, of course, with my team, Tottenham Hotspur. And that's where I'm going to start. And according to David Ornstein, Spurs want to do more business in January. And actually, Fabrizio Romano has said a similar thing this weekend. They want to strengthen their defence and their attack, less so in the midfield, according to Ornstein, which I guess makes sense considering Bentancur's just coming back. I thought Lucas Bergvall put in an excellent performance for 60 minutes at the weekend and has been improving week on week. Loans could be on the agenda for Spurs apparently, and the possibility of some permanent deals like Antonin Kinski, who came in at the weekend. That's if they can bring any permanent potential deals forward from their summer budget. And talking about Kinski, obviously that was a bit of a surprise back end of last week and then announced at the weekend. Spurs said, "We're delighted to announce the signing of Antonin Kinski from SK Slavia Prague, subject to international clearance and work permit." That's an interesting one, isn't it? Because does that mean he will or won't be available for the Liverpool game this week? Obviously, that's the first leg of the Carabao Cup. Brandon Austin came in for Fraser Forster at the weekend, did pretty well, got Ali McCoy's man of the match on TNT Sports, but I'm sure they'll want to give Kinski a go. He's a very modern, exciting young keeper. His distribution is, by the looks of things anyway, better than any keeper we've had at Spurs at all, in terms of the kind of flat, long goal kicks that he can do, and also his ability to throw out and start attacks. He's also just so comfortable with the ball at his feet, which is obviously something that Big Ange Postecoglou is keen on. Spurs went on to say the 21-year-old keeper signed a deal that will run until 2031 and will wear the number 31 shirt. He signed for Slavia Prague back in July 2021, originally joining up with their B team, where he made 9 appearances in his first season. But then, coming forward to this season, he came back to Slavia Prague from another loan, and he's made 29 appearances across the Czech First Division, the UEFA Europa League and Champions League qualifiers. And in those 29 appearances in goal, he's kept 14 clean sheets, which is very impressive. The deal is worth apparently about 15 million euros plus add-ons, and a sell-on clause has been finalised so that Kinski joins Spurs now, but if we were to sell him in future, Slavia Prague would get a little piece of it. Kinski said the following: "I spoke with the coach and I really got the feeling that Spurs was the right choice. He said, I'm really happy to be here. It's been amazing to sign the contract. Spurs is a big name in Europe and in the world, especially in the Czech Republic. And for me, it is a big honour and I'm really happy. I spoke with the coaches, I spoke with the sporting director, and almost with everyone, I've really got the feeling that this is going to be the right choice. It's a new experience and I'm happy to make the first step outside of the Czech Republic. I'm really happy, really excited and looking forward to training and hopefully the games, as this is the aim of every player, to be on the pitch. What I'm going to do is try to push in training to get the minutes. I would say I'm a guy who loves football, who loves to play the game. I've been playing in the Czech Republic so far with Slavia, where I've had a good first half of the season. Then this offer came, and as I said, I felt this was going to be a good decision, so I decided to go. And I'm really happy. I like to play a lot with my feet, and the rest I would say will show when I'll be on the pitch. I remember consistently watching Spurs' Champions League matches, especially because I loved the style of Hugo Lloris, who was the goalkeeper there for a long time. It's a huge honour for me to have the chance to follow in his footsteps. He was asked about the possibility of making his debut versus Liverpool this week. He said, I will prepare to be ready, and if the coaches decide to point to me, I'll be there. I feel great. I'm calm in my head. I think this is an important signing for Spurs, all the way back to Hugo Lloris, and then, even going back to some of the reserves we had then, Gazaniga, Michel Vorm, up to obviously now Fraser Forster, Guillermo Vicario. For me, none of whom are properly modern goalkeepers in terms of distribution, in terms of being comfortable with the ball at their feet. This goalkeeper very clearly is. He's young, he's raw, it's going to take time, and obviously it remains to be seen how he deals with the physicality of the Premier League. But actually, if I were him, I'd take a look at how Brandon Austin did at the weekend, because he was so brave coming for corners and coming for set pieces. He just showed that if you are positive and you use a positive mindset and attack the ball, then actually the spaces will open up for you to come and claim those set pieces. So I'm excited about Kinski. I think it's a good move. Everything I've heard from people in the Czech Republic, Slavia Prague supporters, say that he is the most talented goalkeeper to come out of the Czech Republic since Petr Cech, who obviously made his big money move to Chelsea and then went on to play for Arsenal, but was a real stalwart of the Premier League for well over a decade and one of the best keepers ever to play in the Premier League. So let's see with Kinski. He's 6'2". I'd prefer him to be maybe a couple of inches taller, ideally, but you can't have everything. But an exciting young target. Johan Lange apparently identified him via data, and Spurs then also sent scouts to watch him in the Europa League, and he impressed them further there. Apparently the deal was initially planned for the summer, but they've had to bring it forward due to Vicario's injury to his ankle, of course. In terms of UEFA rules and his eligibility in the Europa League, the rules now state he can play this season for Spurs in the Europa League if they make the knockout stages, and that's despite him already having turned out repeatedly for Slavia Prague. Spurs would have to change the squad and take someone out of the current Europa League squad due to their numbers already registered. Also, there were some other names touted about in terms of potential goalkeeper signings for Spurs. Apparently, Daniel Peretz, the Bayern Munich reserve, was an alternative option, but any potential movement there stalled because Manuel Neuer got a rib injury. And also, Fiorentina reserve keeper Tommaso Martinelli was another player that Tottenham were looking at. That's according to Paul O'Keefe. But for me, getting a goalkeeper in now who can actually genuinely challenge Vicario for the number one spot, who isn't just here to rest on his laurels and play as a reserve, who is young, who is hungry. He's just been called up for the Czech Republic's national team for the first time as well this season. So I think Vicario, even though he's just recovering from his injury, and actually he posted an Instagram post yesterday showing him out of his crutches and out of his protective boot, I think this is good for Vicario. I think pressure on all positions in the squad is vital, and I like the look of Kinski. So, let's get behind him, and hopefully he does really well. As I mentioned, Fabrizio Romano said more players being targeted by Spurs for upcoming days, so potential transfer signings imminent. And that is relevant because this weekend also came out that Paris Saint-Germain were in talks with Aston Villa over a potential cash plus player swap deal involving Randall Kolo Muani and Colombian striker John Duran. That's relevant because Muani is very much on Tottenham's list. Paul O'Keefe says he is the attacker that Spurs are most interested in. He's waiting to hear whether it was close. However, Alistair Gold understands a deal regarding him might be seen to be unlikely at this stage because he is on a huge wage at Paris Saint-Germain, and Tottenham cannot afford to pay all of those wages, and Paris Saint-Germain are currently unwilling to cover any percentage of it. Now, Randall Kolo Muani has caused a little bit of a stir amongst the Tottenham fan base this weekend. Some of the fan base saying he's a brilliant player, exciting, coming into his peak at 26 years old. He had a move to PSG that hasn't fully worked out, but at Eintracht Frankfurt before then and at Nantes, he was a really excellent player. Obviously, highly rated by Didier Deschamps because he plays in the French national team very regularly. Other Spurs fans, potentially saying that he is a busted flush, not the kind of player who will do well in the Premier League, and that Tottenham shouldn't be going for him. Let me know in the comments what you think of Randall Kolo Muani. Aston Villa going for him, Spurs interested. He looks excellent as far as I'm concerned, and I'm always pretty confident that signings that Ange Postecoglou makes, he only gets them in if he actually wants them, thinks he can do a job for them. And I think Muani is potentially a player who Ange could say, listen, you're the main man. We're going to get the ball out to you. Come and play your kind of football. Be attacking. And let's face it, he's going to be better than Timo Werner out wide. And he'll give us more options wide right, where at the moment I would say Brennan Johnson isn't going through his sharpest run of form. Another player Tottenham apparently considering a move for, Evan Ferguson, who is basically interesting most of those clubs apart from maybe the top four in the Premier League at the moment. Ferguson has had a dodgy 18 months or so for Brighton. I think maybe there's an issue there that he doesn't want to sign a new contract for them and has kind of believed the hype a little bit. And when some of those big offers were coming in about a year, 18 months ago, maybe he was disappointed that he didn't get his move. And as a result, he's kind of stopped playing as well for Brighton, that is to say the least. So they are apparently interested in getting him out on a loan with a possible obligation to buy this January. West Ham, as I mentioned last week, interested in him. I think other clubs such as Newcastle sniffing around as well. Is Evan Ferguson a player you would take at Spurs as a backup to Dominic Solanke? Big Ange Postecoglou has spoken for a long time now about how Dominic Solanke needs a rest. He's played basically every game since that kind of injury that he got in the first match of the season at Leicester that kept him out for 3 games or so. Evan Ferguson, clearly a very talented player. If he came to a club like Spurs, would that re-motivate him to show his best work in training and his best football? I think a loan deal would be worth doing. I'm not sure why Brighton would be willing to do that, but if Spurs could get Ferguson in on loan for the second half of the season, that could be really interesting. But like I said, let me know what you think. David Ornstein this weekend has also announced that Ange Postecoglou, according to Ornstein's leaks and contacts within the club, Ange Postecoglou's job is currently 100% safe at Spurs. They are backing him to lead the project forward. How do you feel about that, Spurs fans? Do you think Ange Postecoglou should be back to 100% and given this season to see where he can take us, to see whether he can get us that trophy that we've all said for so long we want? That, as I've mentioned a few times, that a lot of fans said they're not bothered about the league for one season. They just want to see us try and win something. Well, maybe that is why the board are willing to back Ange Postecoglou despite the terrible form at the moment. And in fact, just before that game at the weekend against Newcastle, Ange Postecoglou was asked some questions specifically about transfers and the transfer window, and he said the following: "It's not a matter of pushing, but the club are working hard to get help for the playing group. It's no secret we need to bolster numbers. January is not an easy month, we understand that. At the same time, we want to make sure we do the best thing for us rather than panic and bring in people who aren't going to be a suitable fit." When asked about a new signing being imminent, this was just before Kinski, he said, could be imminent, could not be imminent. So that just shows Ange keeping his cards close to his chest, not giving any obvious things. He also said the following about the transfer window: "To get a deal done, you need multiple parties to come to an agreement. There's so many moving parts to that. It's not just a matter of saying, this is the player I want, let's go get him. You have got to think about the player, their representatives, the other club. Then that club thinks about replacing that player and they have to go and deal with another club. There's multiple moving parts. It's not an easy process, but all we can do is work as hard as we can to try and help the situation." That is what the club are doing. I can tell you the club is working as hard as it possibly can to get some help for the playing group, but not all of that is in our power. I mean, how much of a huge change is this from the things we would hear from Antonio Conte, where he would basically lay grenades and snide little comments about the board not doing enough throughout his tenure at Tottenham Hotspur. Ange Postecoglou is getting a chance at this football club despite the poor form because he is supportive of the transfer strategy. He is supportive of the strategy of wanting the club to play the kind of football that we have all been reared on, to dare is to do, etc., etc. And because he says the right things and he backs the club, therefore he is being allowed to see through this poor run of form and this injury crisis. And I think personally that is the correct decision. But like I said, I know it's very subjective and not everybody feels the same. So let's get in the comments and talk about it. Let's engage and discuss whether you think Ange Postecoglou is still the right man and whether the fact that Daniel Levy and Donna Marie Cullen and the board backing him is the right thing or not. Ange Postecoglou was asked on whether he felt, in hindsight, he needed a bigger squad at the start of the season. He said, look, some of it, but some of it's just circumstances. I know we always want a head on a stick, but some of it's just circumstances. We want somebody to blame and there's always somebody at fault, but some of it's just life. You know, football is like life, and you know how sometimes in life you get one thing go wrong and then you get another thing later on and you're doing nothing different. You're just going, why is it always me at the moment? And you know what? It's all temporary. You get through it, and for us, some of it we understand is a consequence of the situation we're in terms of fixtures, the way we play, but some of it's just, you know, we lost Jed Spence with a red card and he was supposed to start the previous week over Destiny Udogie. Destiny starts, so he doesn't get the rest, and then that's just like life, and sometimes no one's to blame, no one's at fault. You know, it's just we're going through a bad trot, but it's temporary. We'll get through it. We'll analyse areas we can improve in it and move forward from there. That is the positivity I need to hear from my Tottenham manager during a bad run. And a good comparison came out, actually, which is last season at a similar time, Newcastle had a horrendous run of injuries. and they just lost their 9th game at this stage. Spurs have lost their 10th game, so one worse, but Newcastle stuck with Eddie Howe, and as a result, they got all their injuries back. They had a good second half to last season, and now they are up there, aren't they? 4th, 5th place in the league and on a great run. And as we saw at the weekend, they've got some good players. And when they're all playing together, they are a handful. Players like Joe Linton, players like Anthony Gordon. Isak, obviously, is absolute class. So I think that is a good comparison to be made, and that's why Ange Postecoglou should, and I think will, remain as Tottenham manager for this season at least. Okay, guys, before I get into more Premier League transfer talk, once again, please do give this video a like if you're watching on YouTube. Please do subscribe to my channel. As I said, I'm trying to get to 15,000 subscribers. I'm not far away now, so all your support, really appreciated. And also, if you could become a member of my channel, that would really help me. It's just £1 a month. Really helps me make this daily content for you guys. All the details of how to become a YouTube member or a Patreon member are in the description box below. But let's get on to the wider ranging Premier League and lots of transfer talk this weekend, starting at Old Trafford, where, of course, huge amounts of transfer gossip always, but especially at the moment because Amorim has come in, not had the best start, although they did get a decent draw yesterday against Liverpool at Anfield, but lots of potential ins and outs at Old Trafford, starting with Joshua Zirkzee, who wants to leave Man United, and Juventus are interested in the 23-year-old. He only came in the summer. The United away fans at Anfield yesterday chanting his name. They believe in him, but apparently Zirkzee wants to leave. As I mentioned in the opening, AC Milan, the latest club to consider a potential loan move for Man United and England forward Marcus Rashford. I think Rashford going abroad might not be the worst thing for him. Get away from the kind of goldfish bowl that is the UK press, the kind of press and social media over here that has a go at him for being a morally good bloke who tries to help charities and tries to help people. Another club, a little bit more left field, interested in Marcus Rashford is MLS side Seattle Sounders, apparently. That would not be a good move for Marcus Rashford. I can't see that one. United left back Tyrell Malacia, another kind of new signing for United over the last year or so, is a surprise transfer target for Italian club Juventus as well. Dutchman seen as a replacement for experienced Brazilian defender Danilo, 33 years old Danilo now, who is free to leave Juventus. Over to Man City, and City have upped the ante in trying to prepare an offer, or trying to get in, Eintracht Frankfurt forward Omar Marmoush, who is also on Spurs' list, Liverpool's list, and Arsenal's list. Marmoush is just 25 years old. Man City looking to get more numbers in to improve their flailing season, although they did get a win at the weekend, didn't they? The Egypt international keen to come to the Premier League, and you'd have to think that if City are in there, he is most likely to go to the Etihad. Liverpool, over at Liverpool, they've offered Trent Alexander-Arnold, who had a bit of a stinker in yesterday's game against Manchester United, but they've offered him apparently a 5-year contract worth £78 million. That's about £300,000 a week. Trent Alexander-Arnold, 26 now, that would lead him to being 31 years old. But for me, I think he's made his decision. He wants to go to Real Madrid, and who can blame him? And for me, it's so classic Liverpool what's happening now. Jamie Carragher and all of the kind of Liverpool pundits and everyone on social media trying to have a go at Trent Alexander-Arnold for having the temerity to have even suggest that he might leave Liverpool on a free to go to Real Madrid. He's had an amazing career at Liverpool. He's done brilliant things for them. He's let his contract run down. He's taking the risk on that, on getting injured. And if he gets a good offer, he should be allowed to go with everyone's best wishes. But just like they did with Steven Gerrard, they're trying to get on his back and make him almost kind of afraid to leave Liverpool because of his legacy if he did. And that is probably why he had such a terrible game yesterday, because of all the pressure and the negativity surrounding him. And I feel for Trent Alexander-Arnold at the moment, and I'd say to you, Trent, you stick to your guns, mate. If you want to go to Real Madrid, you go to Real Madrid. Liverpool also currently interested in Bayern Munich and Germany winger Leroy Sané as a potential replacement for Mo Salah, who's come out once again and said this will be his final season because his contract is running down too. Liverpool apparently open to accepting offers worth about 50 to 60 million pounds for Darwin Núñez, the Uruguayan forward, who's never quite made it happen at Liverpool yet. 25 years old, and Liverpool apparently willing to let him go. Liverpool have rejected £15 million bid from Crystal Palace for their youngster Ben Doak, the 19-year-old Scotland midfielder, currently on loan at Middlesbrough. They've rejected £15 million from Palace apparently, but also rejected £16 million from Ipswich for Doak, and would prefer him to stay at Middlesbrough until the end of the season. And they think that he is worth £30 million. Now, if you're clubs like Liverpool, you'd look over at Man City at the moment, wouldn't you? And the sales that they've made from their academy graduates, Liam Delap being a perfect example, and how much he is now worth. So they look at Doak, what a talent he is, and they're saying to those clubs like Palace and Ipswich, if you want to get him out of our club early, you're going to have to pay big money. And it might be a risk worth taking, because if Ben Doak were to go to an Ipswich or a Palace and start there similarly to how Liam Delap has done at Ipswich, then immediately he'd be worth double your money. So it might be worth it. Napoli have also opened negotiations to take Liverpool's Federico Chiesa on a 6-month loan. It hasn't really worked there. He's hardly played for Liverpool. Let's go over to Newcastle. They are set to record a profit for the first time in 5 years. However, they will have to sell if they want to buy this month, if they're going to comply with Premier League's financial rules. So despite being owned by a state, despite being owned by Saudi Arabia and having all the money in the world, Newcastle struggling to comply with profit and sustainability rules. And Newcastle fans would call that the red cartel. But for me, it's just rules that have been put in place to make clubs run as sustainably as possible down the years. And Tottenham have had to do that. They've chosen to do that, and I think other clubs should have to as well. Over to Chelsea. Napoli have also expressed an interest in signing their 18-year-old English winger, Chukwuemeka. Carney Chukwuemeka is valued at about £30 million. His move to Chelsea hasn't worked out, really, has it? And Napoli with Antonio Conte not afraid to come back to England and pick up players. Obviously, he took McTominay, he took Billy Gilmore, and now looking at Chukwuemeka as well. Over to West Ham. They are also, as I mentioned, interested in Evan Ferguson, but they've added to their list Wolves' Hwang Hee-chan and Middlesbrough's Ivory Coast forward Emmanuel Latte-Lath, who is 26 years old. So West Ham keen to bolster their strike force. West Ham, along with Man United and Tottenham, all clubs really struggling this season in the bottom half of the table. And you would have thought, wouldn't you, any previous season West Ham would have sacked Lopetegui by now. But they haven't, and I think that is, again, similar with Postecoglou, because they've seen what's happened at Manchester United, how there hasn't been the manager bout, how there aren't a great deal of available managers out there who are really going to excite the fan base, and therefore sticking with their man at the moment. Over to South London, as I mentioned in the opening, Arsenal had been exploring a move for Wolves' Brazilian forward Matheus Cunha, but Fabrizio Romano says that he is now about to sign a new deal at Wolves. Well done to you, Cunha. If you're not going to come to Spurs, and what a player he is, and he's clearly not, don't go to Arsenal, mate. Sign a new deal at Wolves and be the main man there and keep ripping it up in the Premier League. Okay, guys, that's the end of this morning's edition of Daily Premier League Transfer News. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please do give this video a like. Please do subscribe to my channel. I'm getting close to 15,000 subscribers. Would love your support, and you'll get daily Premier League transfer news throughout this January and throughout the summer. And then also always starting, of course, with my team, Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. And also, you can listen to this on the podcast platforms. Just type in the Spurred On podcast, give me a subscribe or follow there, and listen to these episodes whilst you're out running or driving or doing your shopping or whatever. Hope you had a great weekend, everyone. Enjoy your Monday. Cheers.